The next voting method that we're going to take a look at is the plurality with elimination method, which is going to be a variation on that plurality method. We already know that when there are 3 or more candidates running in an election, often no one gets a majority. And as a reminder, majority means more than half of the first place votes. Now typically the candidate or candidates with the fewest first place votes are eliminated, and a runoff election is held. So a runoff election is just another election, and it's going to be between those top 2 vote getters. Now, since runoff elections are expensive, this is an inefficient and a very cumbersome method. So you'd have to hold another election, you have to secure all of your voting places, you have to get people to administer the election, you'd have to get all of your voters to come back out. So it's a big process. A more efficient way is to actually use a preference ballot. Now, not only will we know which candidate the voter wants to win, or their first place choice, but we also know which candidate the voter would choose in a runoff election between any pair of candidates, since they will have all of the candidates ranked. Now remember, we make the assumption that the elimination of a candidate will not affect the preferences. So just because somebody was no longer in the election doesn't mean I'm going to now change my ranking. This method is sometimes also referred to as instant runoff voting, or IRV, ranked choice voting, or RCV, or sometimes it's called the Hare method. So here's how this method works. In round 1, you're going to count your first place votes. If you have a majority candidate, or somebody with more than half of those first place votes, that person's the winner. Otherwise, we're going to eliminate the candidate, or candidates if there is a tie, with the fewest first place votes. Then we move on to round 2. Alright, so those candidates that got eliminated, we're going to cross out their names, and we're going to transfer the votes to the next eligible candidate. So now then we're going to perform a recount, and if we have a majority candidate, that person's the winner. And otherwise, we're going to repeat the process of eliminating the candidate, or candidates if there's a tie, with the fewest first place votes, and we just repeat this process over and over again until we get a majority candidate. Now, worst case scenario is we're going to have to repeat this process until everybody's eliminated except for 2 people. We already talked earlier that we know that if there's only 2 people in an election, somebody at that point in time has to have majority. So let's see what this process looks like in that math club election. Now the first thing you need to do if you're going to do the plurality with elimination method is you need to figure out what that magic number is in order for someone to be a majority candidate. So remember, in this election we had 37 voters. So for a majority candidate, how many votes would be needed? Would be 37 divided by 2. Now that's going to give us 18.5, so we're going to round up. So we need 19 votes to be a majority candidate. So let's see if somebody already has majority. Now when we did this already in the plurality method, so we took a look at A, B, C, and D, and we just took a look at their first place votes. So if you remember, we actually crossed out the rest of this table. We said we're just going to look at first place. A had 14 first place votes, B had 4, C had 10 here and 1 here, or 11 total, and D had the 8. Now at that point in time when we did the plurality method, we said A would be the winner. But notice A does not have majority. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take into account the rest of the preference table. So here's how this process works at this point in time. After, at the end of round 1, if someone doesn't have majority, we're going to eliminate the person with the fewest first place votes. Alright, so who has the fewest first place votes? That would be B, right? So this person's going to get eliminated. Now we're going to move on to round 2. So at this point in time I have an election with just A, C, and D. Now if B gets eliminated, let's go to B's column in here. If B gets eliminated, those 4 votes would get transferred to the next person available, which would be D. So if I go ahead and retally, looking at the votes, A has still these 14. C still has these 10 here and 1 here, or 11 total. And D has these 8 here, but now they pick up the 4 from the next column. So at this point in time, D has 12 first place votes. Looking at my numbers here, nobody hits this magic number of 19. So we're going to repeat this process again. We're going to eliminate the person with the fewest first place votes. So in this case, C would be eliminated. And we're going to go to the next round. At this point in time, the only people still in the election are A and D, because B got eliminated in the first round and C got eliminated in the second round. So at this point in time, now C is gone. So maybe I'll come up here and I'll cross out C. They're no longer in the race. So in the next column, if C is gone, notice that B already got eliminated, so then I'm going to cross that out as well. So now I'm going to retally. So what do I have going on? A has 14 votes there. This column would go to D, this column goes to D, this column goes to D, and that column goes to D. So that's it for A. D now has 10 from this second column, 8 from this third column, 4 from the next column, and then 1 from the last column. Adding those numbers up, I get 23. That exceeds my majority number of 19, so this person's the winner. All right, so the winner for this election, under the plurality with elimination method, would be D or Dave. And if you need to do a complete ranking, keep into account your first, second, third, and fourth place. How this works is, so Dave would be the winner, so he's in first. The individual who got eliminated first, which in this case would be B, is in last place. The individual who got eliminated next would be in the third place. And then the person who made it to the round that they had the runoff against the winner, that person then has second place. So then my ranking would be Dave in first, Alicia in second, Carmen in third, and Boris in fourth.